Imagine waking up one day to find your favorite gadget outdated, because overnight, China rolled out a newer, cheaper version. Picture entire industries scrambling as solar panels, electric cars, and steel from China undercut global markets. This isn't a dystopian sci-fi plot, it's today's reality. In just a few decades, China didn't merely catch up, it leapt ahead, forcing Western giants to rethink everything. How did it happen so fast? And can anyone keep pace with an industrial titan firing on all cylinders? Before we dig deeper, tap subscribe and hit the bell. We're unpacking more global game changers just like this. If you're finding these insights valuable, drop a like to help spread the word. For years, the world watched China rise. Silently, steadily, and ruthlessly efficient. But no one expected this. In just a few decades, China didn't just catch up, it overtook. From dominating global steel production to flooding markets with electric vehicles, solar panels, and smartphones, China has pushed entire industries to the edge of collapse. Western companies, once untouchable, are now scrambling to survive. The question on everyone's mind isn't just how China did it. It's whether the rest of the world can keep up, or if it's already too late. That scene sets the stage, a world unprepared for China's industrial sprint. In 1978, China hit the accelerator. Deng Xiaoping initiated the reform and opening up, pivoting from Maoist command economics to a hybrid model, state-led capitalism with market mechanisms. Special economic zones like Shenzhen sprang up, offering tax breaks, simplified regulations, and direct lines to global investors. What followed was nothing short of an industrial revolution. Between 1980 and 2000, China's GDP grew by an average 10% annually. Rural poverty collapsed from over 80% to under 20%. Cities swelled with migrant workers building factories, highways, and power plants. By the turn of the millennium, China was firmly on the world's manufacturing map, but it still trailed in high-tech sectors. Then came the 21st century, and China shifted gears. It launched Made in China 2025, a plan to dominate 10 strategic industries: robotics, aerospace, high-speed rail, electric vehicles, and semiconductors, among others. Beijing pledged over $300 billion in subsidies, R&D grants, and state-backed loans. Suddenly, China was no longer content being the world's workshop. It wanted to control the future. Take electric vehicles, EVs. In 2015, China accounted for less than 5% of global EV production. Today, it commands more than 60%. How? First, Beijing set aggressive production quotas, forcing domestic automakers to launch EV lines or face heavy penalties. Next, it offered consumers subsidies up to $10,000 per vehicle, plus free license plates in congested cities, an invaluable perk when local plates often require lottery wins. State-owned giants like BAIC and private upstarts like NIO, XPeng, and BYD raced to fill the demand. BYD, once a battery maker, pivoted into car manufacturing. By 2023, BYD sold over 1.8 million EVs, outstripping Tesla's China sales by 30%. Meanwhile, China built the world's largest network of charging stations, over 1.7 million chargers, compared to under 150,000 in the US. Western automakers struggled. High labor costs at home, combined with a lack of scale, made it impossible to match Chinese prices. General Motors and Volkswagen hastily opened local EV plants, but they could only compete by slimming profit margins to near zero. Across Europe, companies like Renault and Stellantis saw EV plant closures and job cuts as Chinese imports swamped local showrooms. A similar playbook unfolded in solar energy. In 2005, Germany led the market, with firms like Qcells and SMA Solar at the forefront. But Germany's high labor costs and limited panel factories meant scale was capped. China, by contrast, invested heavily in polysilicon plants and wafer production, subsidizing energy costs and offering cheap loans to manufacturers. Between 2006 and 2012, global solar panel prices plunged by over 80%. Chinese firms Trina, Jinko Solar, and Longji drove the decline, producing over 70 gigawatts of capacity annually by 2020. Western rivals couldn't match the low-cost output and filed anti-dumping complaints. The EU imposed tariffs in 2013, the US followed in 2018. Yet prices continued to fall, dragging European producers into bankruptcy. Germany's SolarWorld declared insolvency in 2017. Now, over 80% of the world's solar panels come from China. An entire green revolution depends on Chinese-scale manufacturing. Panels for Africa, rooftops in California, solar farms in Australia. Developers willingly pay freight costs because the panels are simply too cheap to ignore. But China's breakneck pace came at a cost. By 2015, steel output exceeded 1.2 billion tons, double global demand. Blast furnaces hummed day and night, producing mountains of rebar and sheet steel. Prices collapsed, international markets flooded with cut-rate exports. India, Japan, and Europe imposed anti-dumping duties. By 2016, global steel prices had dropped by 30%, wiping out profit margins across the industry. Overcapacity seeped into EVs and solar too. Cities in China bristled with unsold EVs parked curbside. Panel warehouses overflowed with surplus modules. To sustain factories and meet government targets, firms shipped excess to Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia, sometimes free of charge, as aid. This tactic weakened local suppliers abroad, raised diplomatic eyebrows, and fueled tensions in trade talks. The backlash culminated in the US-China trade war. In 2018, the US slapped 25% tariffs on $50 billion worth of Chinese goods, including machinery, solar panels, and steel. China retaliated with levies on US agricultural exports. The conflict dragged on for 2 years, roiling global supply chains and prompting companies to explore China plus one strategies, adding Vietnam, India, or Mexico to their manufacturing footprint. Yet tariff costs rarely offset China's low production costs. Companies discovered that moving 10% of output overseas barely dented their overall margins. And logistics complexities, customs delays, new supplier vetting often outweighed the benefit of higher labor costs. Behind these headlines are real people. In Dongguan's industrial parks, workers clock 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, assembling smartphones and EV components for $5 an hour. Dormitories house hundreds, with communal bathrooms and strict curfews. The pressure to meet production quotas leads to burnout and safety incidents. Fires in electronics factories kill dozens each year. Meanwhile, in rural China, a generation of farmers trades fields for factory floors. Parents send remittances home, sometimes 50% of their wages, to support aging relatives. Children of migrant workers often attend left-behind schools, taught by underpaid teachers struggling with memory issues from early malnutrition. In the West, factory closures scar communities. In Pennsylvania's steel towns, wells that once employed thousands now stand silent, rusting in the rain. In Spain's Andalusia region, shuttered panel plants left hundreds jobless, many lacking the skills to pivot to services or tourism. Retraining programs exist, but they can't replace the sense of loss when a hometown staple vanishes. China's industrial juggernaut didn't rise by accident. It was engineered through state-backed subsidies, ruthless scale, and a coordinated vision from Beijing down to provincial capitals. It mastered the art of learn, copy, innovate, and repeat, while insulating domestic firms from market pressures. But in the race to be the world's factory, China created overcapacity, trade tensions, and ethical questions about labor and environmental standards. Today, global governments scramble to draft new industrial policies, reshoring incentives in the US, a Green Deal in Europe prioritizing local clean tech manufacturing, and Make in India tariffs to attract production. Yet none match China's ability to mobilize vast resources at breakneck speed. The paradox stands. We depend on China's industrial might to feed our supply chains, yet we fear its dominance. We try to de-risk, diversify, and decouple. But the momentum of 2 generations of growth is hard to reverse in a few years. What do you think is the future of global manufacturing? Can Western economies reclaim lost ground? Or will China's industrial lead only widen? Share your thoughts below, hit like if you found this deep dive insightful, and subscribe for more analyses that go beyond the headlines.